to see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars to the perilous fight for the ramparts we hailed were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets' dread glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let us pray. Almighty God, as we begin this service, we ask for your blessing upon these families, upon those who are being sworn in as state police officers. We thank you for allowing us to live in a country where we enjoy the freedoms, the privileges, and the rights. And we ask that this group might live up to the goals, the ambitions, and the abilities that you have given them, and that they might serve us proudly in the years to come. We ask this in your name.
Please be seated. Honorable United States Attorney James Richmond, Honorable Circuit Court Judge John M. Ryan, Superintendent Furness, Assistant Superintendent Don Cox, Indiana State Police Board members, James Heide, Secretary, Father Cooley, Executive Director of the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, Arthur Rainey, fellow officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 46th recruit class of the Indiana State Police. During the past 17 weeks, the members of this class have excelled academically and physically. They have worked diligently to uphold the standards expected of them by receiving over 700 hours of instruction, which is all designed to prepare them for their next training phase as a probationary officer. All families and friends should be proud of their accomplishments and professionalism, just as we are proud of each one of them. It is now my privilege to introduce to you the Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Larry D. Furness. Superintendent Furness joined the Indiana State Police May 16, 1964, and advanced through all ranks from trooper to his current position as superintendent. He graduated from Indiana State University, Terre Haute, Indiana, with a bachelor's degree in accounting. He attended Indiana University School of Law in Indianapolis and received his Doctor of Jurisprudence degree in January of 1976. He is a member of the Marion County Bar Association, the Indiana State Bar Association, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and the Indiana Criminal Law Study Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, Superintendent Larry Furness.
Well, first I would like to say welcome to everyone that's here, families, friends, spouses, cadets, board members, and other honored guests that are here with me on the platform. And then secondly, I would like to apologize for the fact our speaker's not working properly. So we'll try and shout and perhaps you'll be able to hear us. This is a very special occasion that brings us here today. It's a graduation of officers from a long period of training and exercises to this swearing-in ceremony where they actually become officers, getting ready to embark out on new assignments, in summary, in a new career. Cadets, you're to be congratulated for your successful completion of events thus far. It has not been easy, but you have met the challenge. You are achievers who possess the desire and the drive to excel, and the initiative to continue to learn and to develop. Both are qualities that we look for in our selection process. We attempt to identify individuals such as you. However, as you cadets know, our employment process is much different than with any other kind of company or organization that you would ever hope to look to. We required some very rigid standards to be attained to get where you are today. Most employers have an interview, you're able to sit and look across the desk, across a desk at them and have some kind of idea just what you're going to be doing. You may start that same day or the next day, usually not later than a week or so afterwards. It's not that way with us. We do a lot of other steps, as you well know. These cadets have gone through testing. They've gone through background investigations. We know more about them than they know about themselves, quite honestly. We have gone through an interview process, actually several interviews. There was an interview with a selection board that interviewed some nearly 300 individuals. That was narrowed down to 150 or so after that process, and then it cut it on down even more as they proceeded on. From the interview, they went through a medical exam. The medical exam is one that, as you might imagine, is very rigid for a police officer. It's required to be because the duties are that way. From there, they go through a polygraph testing. We just want to make sure that we haven't missed anything, and so the polygraph is going to let us know that. And we know then, when they get through that side of it, we have the very best to present to the citizens of the state of Indiana. From there, still not finished, they have a physical fitness exam. A physical fitness exam is one where they're required to run a little bit, do a few push-ups, do a few sit-ups. We just want to make sure they can do that when they get to the next step, which is the academy. And believe you me, if you had been in Family Day yesterday, you know of some of the statistics that were given about the miles and miles and miles, how many trips from Evansville to South Bend they would have made in their running, how many hundreds of thousands of push-ups and sit-ups. We required it of them. We did it for some very important reasons, because we know that soon they are going to be officers. They had to complete that academy and all the rigidity that's with it. Some didn't. We started out with 60 cadets. The first week we lost 5. I replaced those 5 with 5 others. We have 53 here before you today. That means 12 fell by the wayside. That means 1/5, 20%. It's a tough school. Why is it that way? That's what I would like to talk about. And why even after that, before I get to that, do we require them to serve a probationary period? because we know that there's some things that are going to be happening in their lives that are important to you. So why are those steps necessary to get to where each of these cadets are today? Because we are placing in your hands, cadets, the most awesome responsibility in all society: the regulation of our fellow man, the maintaining of peace, civil order, and obedience. It's all being placed with you. With this responsibility, you are given commensurate authority. The authority to enforce the laws, to regulate, to arrest, and to incarcerate, and to do so with all reasonable force necessary, up to and including the power to take the life of another fellow human being. Under such circumstances, I think that if you officers consider your responsibility and the authority that attaches with it, you can understand why the process is as it was. It had to be rigid, because that is truly an awesome responsibility. But family and friends that are here, that responsibility has some burden on your shoulders as well, because you can understand why, for all officers that we're talking about, and not just these cadets, your cadet, but all officers employed in that capacity anywhere, they need your support because it rarely comes from others. Those same people that put particular charges and requirements on these people are often the people that stand in judgment of the officer if they make a mistake. You know, we talk with the officers in the academy about the fact that they live in a glass house, that if they do things, that people are going to be quick to cast stones their direction. And so what we see is officers out there that are enforcing the speeding laws, and if they speed, people complain. If they use too much force, people complain. Sometimes if they don't do things like that, people will complain. Because they are, just as I stated, they are the maintainers of peace in this society, and people will challenge that authority. That's the nature of humans. But we have to prepare them to face it. This is why we have and why we will continue to demand so much of our troopers, and why we have prepared you as we have. I am confident that you cadets will meet this responsibility, and my expectations of each and every one of you will be fulfilled. We have with us today a very special guest that is in our midst. He's not listed on your program, but we do have him with us. And I would wish to introduce to you at this time the Governor of the State of Indiana, the Honorable Robert D. Orr. Governor Orr.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and my greetings to all of you. To all of you who are in the graduating group, those who leave the ranks of cadets today and now become rookies, I guess is the title used affectionately for all of you in your first year, to the families, to the people who are your friends and associates, and all of those that are assembled up here on the platform on this particularly significant day. Let me greet you all and congratulate the graduating class. You're a fine group of Hoosiers. We expect that you will join the greatest police organization in the world as proud members, and that you will acquit yourselves as only Indiana State Police can do. I apologize for my lateness of arrival, and particularly to my good friend Judge Ryan. This sounds as if it were staged, but it was not. I was interrupted just as I was getting ready to leave by a telephone call from a very fine gentleman who usually expresses appreciation for things when he believes he should do so, and that is the Vice President of the United States, George Bush, who called a short while ago for the sole purpose of saying to me, I thank you for the help that was provided in my attaining the office of President from the state of Indiana. I told him that I would be coming down here to this gathering. He asked me to convey his best regards to all of you. There's no question that the role that you now have to play, that of an Indiana State Police person, is as important as there is. You are, for the most part, the person in the state government that the public has most contact with. How you conduct yourselves is the way by which a great many people among our 5.5 million citizens look upon their state government. They expect the law to be enforced. They expect you to do your duty from that standpoint. And I think almost everyone hopes that you will do so in a courteous fashion and in a manner that will convey the message that you have respect for citizens, and at the same time you have your duty to perform. I know that you will have some difficult times ahead of you. You are prepared by virtue of your training to face good times as well as bad, to face kinds of difficulties that may arise instantly, as well as the joy of being a participant in a great organization. The people of the state of Indiana depend upon the Indiana State Police to a far greater degree, I believe, than they've often recognized. You were called out to duty under most difficult circumstances. It has been my pleasure to have seen the state police operating where there is catastrophe, where their service is absolutely vital to the welfare of the public. I have had the pleasure of having a state policeman accompanying me now for 8 years, a detail of men and one woman who have fulfilled their responsibilities to provide me with assistance and protection. It has given me an opportunity to become acquainted with a number of state police persons and to recognize in them the fine qualities that they possess. It is the sort of relationship as one moves about, as I must do, with one of them constantly in attendance, that I fully recognize how much in debt we all are to the Indiana State Police. And through them, in many respects, I'm able to express my appreciation to the entire Indiana State Police, a great organization, one that all Hoosiers are proud of, one that you're entitled to have our respect. I wish you well. I trust that you will comport yourselves always as you have been trained. And may Godspeed with you in your many rounds. I'm grateful for the opportunity to appear briefly and to express my enthusiasm for you as the graduating class, and to thank all of those who have made it possible for you to attain the rank of Indiana State Police Person. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor, for those very kind words about our organization and for your presence here today. We appreciate it very much. It is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for the morning, the Honorable James Richmond, who is the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Indiana. Jim Richmond has been one of those individuals that law enforcement looks forward to dealing with, working with on a day-to-day basis. He is in an area where we are working in crime-fighting activities that would astonish even the FBI's top 10 list if they knew what we were doing. We're working on task force operations together with the U.S. Attorney, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the local units of government through northern Indiana in all aspects, all the way across the northern portion. And that work is being conducted and directed basically as a result and at the hands of one man, and that's your next speaker, Mr. Jim Richmond. He's been the U.S. Attorney for 3 years up there, and in that 3 years, we have made abundant arrests that never would have been touched but for his direction. It's with great pleasure I introduce a friend and great U.S. Attorney, Mr. Jim Richmond.
Thank you. Members of the 46th recruit class, Governor Orr, distinguished guests, family and friends. It is indeed an honor to be invited to give a speech here today. And one of the nice things is when the PA system goes out, I can't be blamed for a bad speech. If you don't like what you think I said, it's because the PA system was out and not the speech I gave. I have spent 13 years in law enforcement as a federal agent, as an assistant United States attorney, and as the United States attorney. And I have had the distinct privilege and opportunity to work with, assist, and observe the Indiana State Police on many occasions. These experiences have done nothing but deepen the respect and admiration I have for this institution. But never in my 13 years in law enforcement have I had the privilege to be present at the creation of a trooper. For 17 weeks, each of you has worked towards this goal. Each of you, as he sits there, can't wait to leave this rotunda, get in his commission, and go write his first speeding ticket. And in so doing, you will begin a career of accomplishing the mission of the Indiana State Police. For you will have indeed engaged in the process of supervising the flow of traffic on the Indiana State Highway system, and to that driver, you will have done it in an extremely personal way. But what of the rest of the state police mission? And what of the environment in which you are going to be called on over your career to achieve that mission? Your mission states that in addition to the supervision of traffic, you shall preserve and protect human life, property, and the rights of people in accordance with the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Indiana. That you will enforce federal and state laws in the most effective and efficient manner. And if that's not enough, you, each of you, will promote respect for law. I'd like to give you a few brief observations about that mission and the environment in which you are going to work. You have chosen a noble career, a career of public service, one that probably demands more dedication to duty and to service to the citizens of the state of Indiana than perhaps any other career in public service could. Each of you was selected for this class because you exhibited certain personality traits and certain character traits. Among those are intelligence, honesty, integrity, and self-motivation. And you have affirmed that selection process today by arriving here as graduates. But those traits and skills and the other skills that you will acquire over the next few years will be tested more frequently and more severely than anything of the last 17 weeks, and I firmly believe anything in the history of the Indiana State Police. You are going to be asked to accomplish the state police mission at a time when we as a people are engaged in a war on drugs. And it is that war that will confront you daily as you seek to accomplish your stated mission. As you go about this great state, preserving property and protecting human life, never forget that as a part of that mission, you are sworn to protect the rights of the citizens in accord with the Constitution of the state of Indiana and of the United States. For if you forget your constitutional obligation, you will fail to accomplish that part of the mission that requires you to promote respect for law. Each of you have been told the story that you are a part of the thin blue line that separates a democracy and a society from the jungle. But there is more. Each time you individually come in contact with a citizen, you will be judged by that person and all who know him by how he perceives his treatment. For in many instances, you may be the only contact that that person ever has with a law enforcement agency. And if he is not treated in a courteous and professional manner, you have failed to promote the respect for law. But what about that part of the mission that requires you to enforce federal and state laws in a most effective and efficient manner? Here is where your job and your mission comes face to face with the war on drugs. We as a nation have adopted a strategy to interdict the drug supply coming into this country at the borders. That means that more and more resources and more money in this investigative effort are being taken from places like Indiana, the heartland of America, to be sent to places like Florida, Louisiana, Texas, Seattle, Washington, and New York City. And the Indiana State Police, as a part of its mission, has assumed a much greater role in the enforcement of federal law. All across the Northern District of Indiana, we have state police officers and detectives engaged in joint investigations in the areas of drugs, organized crime, and public corruption. And these investigations stand for one principle: cooperation between law enforcement agencies. Each of you needs to understand the importance of cooperation in your duties as a trooper. Each of you believes that you are a part of one of the finest law enforcement agencies on earth, and indeed that belief is well-founded. But when you leave here, you will discover that practically every law enforcement officer or federal agent or deputy sheriff you meet holds the same belief, only he holds it as it relates to the agency for which he works. Now you are faced with the essence of cooperation. And in law enforcement, that seems to be the ability to set aside institutional pride and esteem to achieve the stated law enforcement purpose. Regardless of whether the members of the other agencies you work with can do that, it is up to you to sublimate the institutional bias to achieve the objectives, or it won't be done. Whether it is working a corruption investigation in Lake County, Indiana, or with a task force in South Bend, or as a part of the cartel in Fort Wayne attempting to solve the horrible crack cocaine problem that exists there, these investigations only succeed when institutional prejudice and bias are set aside and all of the agencies involved seek to enforce the law in the most efficient and effective manner. Each of you needs to be aware of these institutional biases, and you will learn more about them every day in your performance of your duties, whether it's working an accident with another police department, working traffic control with another agency, or investigating the recovery of a stolen vehicle. Never forget, you are a professional, and one of the hallmarks of professionalism is the ability to recognize institutional biases and pride and sublimate those in an effort to achieve the ultimate objective. Preserve and protect human life, property, and the rights of people in accordance with the Constitution of the United States and the state of Indiana. Enforce federal and state laws in an effective and efficient method, and promote respect for law, because whether any other officer in this state will agree with you, that is not just your mission, that is the mission of all of us. Every one of us, be he sheriff, state police officer, local police officer, county prosecutor, or assistant United States attorney. Welcome to the family. Good luck, and God bless you.
It is now my honor to introduce to you Judge John M. Ryan of the Marion County Circuit Court, who will give the cadets their oath of office. Judge Ryan.
Governor Orr, Superintendent Furness, Father Cooley, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, cadets. May I first say before administering this oath that I consider it a personal honor and privilege to be able to do this. You are about to become members of an organization with an honorable and proud tradition. I wish you well in your future endeavors, and I'm sure that you will continue to uphold the finest traditions of the Indiana State Police. Now, if you'll all rise, please, cadets. Raise your right hands and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend. I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America. The Constitution and the laws of the United States of America. And the Constitution and laws of the state of Indiana. Against all enemies, foreign or domestic. Against all enemies, foreign or domestic. And that I will faithfully and justly discharge the duties. And I will faithfully and justly discharge the duties. Of an employee of the Indiana State Police Department. Of an employee of the Indiana State Police Department. According to the best of my ability. According to the best of my ability. I furthermore do solemnly swear. That I am not now and never have been. A member of the Communist Party. A Communist Front organization. Or any organization which advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States of America. By force and violence. So help me God. Troopers, congratulations. You may be seated.
Now you have that honor that we talked about at the beginning of the school. Troopers. Great. During the academy, there are several endeavors that are put before the cadets, and one of them is to achieve particular levels of excellence in various kinds of functions that we put on, whether it be the shooting, the driving, the overall, just whatever. We set particular standards. The staff, the officers that you see on this front row and Major Medler, evaluate each of these cadets on a daily basis as they were going through this academy. Each of these troopers now that I might say. And what they do is they look at them for their academics, how they're doing with the criminal law, the traffic law, writing classes, the psychology classes, all the various studies that are placed before them. They evaluate that. They evaluate their physical training, how well they're doing it, what levels of improvement have been added. Not so much who is the top performer, but levels of improvement. What leadership qualities are being expressed, and that is extremely important to us. And they rotate around squad leaders of their various groups as they went through the training. They also evaluate ability and attitude. And probably the greatest area of concern that we have is that of attitude, because attitude is important. It's, as the speakers before me have stated, it's what makes us what we are. It's what reflects to the public. It's the image that we portray. Upon conclusion of all that evaluation, they tally the scores and they look for what is one of our top cadet awards. And that award is called the Superintendent's Award. There's only one of them given. There's often more that are entitled to it, but there can only be one winner. This year's winner, based upon the final tally and the recommendations of the staff, is Carl C. Little. Trooper Little, would you please step forward? I'll assure you that award does not come easy. He worked hard. The next award that we have that we're going to present is one that comes as a result of a tragedy that occurred with the Indiana State Police Department. And today we're honored to have with us Mickey and Jay Hatfull. Jay, you might as well come up here if you will, please. Jay's father and Mickey's husband, John Hatfull, was killed in the line of duty with the Indiana State Police a year ago this past April. And he was a great member of our department. He served in the Evansville district. He was killed in a situation where he was attempting to remove an individual that was armed inside a home. It was an unfortunate situation, and he left behind a beautiful and fine family. We have with him his son today who would like to say a few words, and I'll give it to you, Jay.
Hello, my name is Jay Hatfull. In memory of my father, John Hatfull, I would like to present the Outstanding Shooting Award for both shotgun and revolver to Probationary Officer Alan D. Petrie.
Thank you, Superintendent. We will now present the members of the class with their Indiana State Police badges, the Law Enforcement Training Board Certificate of Graduation. Anyone in the audience at this time who would like to take photographs may do so. We just ask that you do not block the procession as they go back to their seats. And I'd also ask that you hold your applause until the end, after each new trooper receives his badge. James V. Askew. Robert D. Bass. Scott P. Beeman. Mark D. Bloom. Richard D. Burleson. Peter W. Cates. Tyler D. Chrisman. Gary A. Clark. Wanda D. Clay. Mark D. Clefane. Randy L. Culp. Donald L. Curtin. Stephen L. Dedat. Lionel Douglas. David R. Eggers. John J. Fight. Deborah L. Finnerty. Tony D. Frawley. Lance C. Garver. Gary L. Gerardo, Jr. Eric F. Gilliam. Amy D. Hoppert. Robert R. Hawkins. Rebecca Head. Jeffrey C. Heron. His father-in-law. Michael W. Hemphill. His badge will be presented by his father-in-law, Sergeant Carl Freeman. Gary W. Jesse. Kelly J. Lazelle. Carl C. Little. Thomas K. Littlefield. Alan R. Lawrence. Kenneth L. McLaurin. William A. Myers. Michael V. Nichols. His badge will be presented by his uncles, Major Jim Kinder and Sergeant Dave Kinder. Michael A. Uli. Jeffrey A. Payne. Alan D. Petrie. His badge will be presented by his father, Captain Dean Petrie. Dale R. Reber. Richard A. Reed. Anthony P. Ross. Kathy A. Schramm. Her badge will be presented by her brother, Trooper Chris Schramm. Bradley S. Scully. Jeffrey S. Seago. Gary R. Shenefield. Alan D. Sheritz. Todd E. Smith. His badge will be presented by his father, Detective Sergeant William Smith. William S. Van. Jeffrey L. Walker. Stephen B. Whitaker. Gary A. Weir. Robert Kent Winstead. Brian W. Young. Ziegler? Daniel K. Ziegler. His badge will be presented by State Police Board Secretary James Heide. Give him a hand. Thank you very much for the applause. I'm sure they're going to remember that 20, 25 years from now. At this time, the class will participate in the ceremony by having a representative address this assembly. I now introduce to you Trooper Richard Reed of the 46th Recruit Class. Trooper Reed.
This morning you've joined with us to share a special day in our lives, a day that we of the 46th Recruit Class have been anxiously awaiting for the past 17 weeks. We have successfully completed our academy training and today have taken an oath to uphold the laws of the Constitution of the United States and the state of Indiana. This oath is the beginning of a long and dedicated career as troopers with the Indiana State Police. I am extremely honored and proud to be representing the Indiana State Police 46th Recruit Class at this graduation ceremony. I'd like to share with you some of the things that got us where we are today. We started out amongst 1,500 applicants. Each one of us strived to be chosen to attend the Indiana State Police Academy. And on July 18th, 1988, 60 people from throughout Indiana met, each person bringing their own individual personalities and qualities with them. First week was an orientation period. We were told what was expected of us, both mentally and physically. We immediately began our academic studies and learned how to use all available time to complete the things that needed to be done. This time was one of the most important phases of the academy. We were given 3 words to remember: excellence through discipline. We learned that they were more than mere words. Everything we did revolved around this phrase. The academy staff was instilling discipline into our lives, and this was done through our physical training, academics, and everyday contact with the staff. The purpose of this was to help us maintain a much-needed self-discipline to carry through in our lives many years after the academy. These 17 weeks seemed like an eternity at times, but in fact was only a fraction of the amount of time that could have been spent on the much-needed and wanted information. These newly appointed troopers, seated here, represent a cross-section of society. Some are married and have children. Some are college graduates. Some have previous law enforcement experience. We've all had our own individual past experiences, but these last 17 weeks have taught us to be more than individuals. It has shown us that we need to work together as a team to share information and knowledge so we can accomplish similar goals. There's not enough time today for me to describe fully the 17 weeks that we have just completed. So I'd like to summarize by saying we arrived as strangers to each other and now are leaving feeling like a close family. We have learned and experienced the true meaning of motivation, determination, desire, success, pride, and discipline. Each and every one of us know that we have a long and prestigious tradition that we must uphold. And in following that tradition, we not only provide the best service available to the citizens of Indiana, but take pride in knowing that we are part of one of the finest law enforcement agencies in the United States. And the family plays a large part in the life of a police officer, and a heavy burden is placed on them. I hope that each and every one of you out there today, with your deepest and wholeheartedness, support your family member, a friend, or friend that is graduating with me today. Support has a direct relationship with the attitude that one has and the degree of success that is achieved. Your pride in the lifestyle that we have chosen to live makes our work more rewarding, satisfying, and strengthens the confidence and pride that we have in ourselves. We've worked hard for the past 17 weeks, and your attendance today is an obvious sign of that support. We deeply appreciate your attendance and support. Thank you very much.
I have an emergency announcement to make. If a Phil Tipton, coroner from Tipton County, is in the audience, he should call his office right away. Phil Tipton. I would now like to make some introduction of my training staff and some distinguished guests we have here today. The 46th recruit class received instruction from within and from outside of the Indiana State Police Department. But a great deal of the education and training is due to the training staff and the recruit school counselors that spent the last 17 weeks with them in this adventure. I would like to recognize these individuals at this time. Please stand and face the audience as I read your name. Assistant Division Commander Lieutenant Dan East, First Sergeant Kelvis Williams, Sergeant Pat McCreary, Sergeant Jeff Wardlow, Sergeant Chip Sunye, Sergeant J.D. Richards, and now the counselors. The counselors have basically been at their side day in and day out, as well as the commander at the academy this year, Sergeant Dave Benjamin. Sergeant Dave Benjamin's on the end. If you'd please stand. The counselors are Sergeant Carol Ruby, Corporal Ray Ben, Trooper Anthony Portwood, Trooper Doug Carter, also like to take the opportunity to introduce to you our distinguished guests on the front row from the department. Lieutenant Colonel Lloyd Jennings, Lieutenant Colonel Larry Delaney, and State Police Board Secretary James Heide. Before I call Father Cooley forward for the invocation, I'd like to take this time to thank the stage party, in particular Governor Orr, for being here this morning. Thank you very much, Governor. Please stand as I call Father Cooley forward for the benediction.
And let us pray. Almighty God, As these individuals begin their new career, we ask but one thing: that you guide them and protect them both physically and spiritually, that you allow them to grow, to develop, and to make wonderful careers in law enforcement, but at the same time allow them to grow and to develop the spiritual life that lives for all eternity. And we ask this in your name. God bless all of you.
Thank you for attending this graduation ceremony. You should be proud of the accomplishments of these new troopers. With your support, they have the potential for a long and fulfilling career with the Indiana State Police. Because as police officers, we live with the past, present, and the future. But our true existence lies within each of us as a calling to commitment and duty and for the trust of our society. This will conclude our ceremony. Families and friends may meet the new troopers at the north end of the rotunda. Would you please remain standing for the withdrawal of the colors and the class? Thank you.